Good afternoon, Flosstube. It's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. I'm back again today with another quick tutorial to share with you how to use the sewing method to cross stitch. So the piece that you see before you is one I shared on my latest video. It's my new start, and this is by Sweet Wing Studio, and it's called Forever in Peace. The flag itself is a full coverage piece, so the pattern calls for a 32 count light mocha Belfast, stitching 2 threads over 2 linen thread, with 2 threads over 2 linen threads. The piece of fabric I have is actually antique white, and I decided after starting it that I did not like the look, the bulkiness of the 2 threads in the full coverage area. So with the wording, I've stayed with 2 threads over 2 linen threads, and here I'm doing 1 thread over 2 linen threads to do the full coverage area. That just reduces a little bit of the bulkiness. I like the muted coloration that it gives with 1 less thread. It's not as defined, but I like that faded look of it. Also, I've went ahead and started my thread. I've anchored my thread. There's lots of ways to anchor, whether you use the loop method, whether you use a pin stitch like I did, whether you use away knots by starting over here with a knot and then doing your stitches and coming back and anchoring that up under your threads, or whether you tie down your end by starting off pulling up from the back and leaving a tail and then again cross stitching over that tail to anchor it. Whatever way you use is perfectly fine. I just prefer the pin stitch, and so we're going to get started now. So as I said, the first stitch is there, and so we're just going to start our stitching. So I come up out of the bottom left, down into the top right, and then up out of the bottom right and down into the top left to perform my stitches. So since we're going all the way across with this color, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to go all the way across. That'd take too long, but I am going to stitch as I normally would. So I'm coming up out of the bottom left, going down, diving down into the top right, coming up from the bottom right, and pulling through. Then I'm coming up that brings me up in the bottom left of the next stitch or next square. I'm going down into the top right of that square and up out of the bottom left. Again, up out of the bottom left, diving down into the top right, up out of the bottom right. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way across. So up bottom left, dive down into the bottom right, pull your needle up, poke your needle up through the bottom right, and pull. So to me, this speeds my stitching up a good bit, because when I'm using a Q-snap, I'm poking and diving my needle down, flipping my Q-snap. So I'm doing a lot of this, back and forth, because I'm just poking my needle, or stabbing, some people say, stabbing my needle down into the fabric, flipping the fabric, and then stabbing it back up through the front. So with this way, you're not flipping your fabric. You're keeping it all right here on top. And when I'm stitching this way, what I use most is my pointer finger and my thumb. So my pointer finger, I put it directly behind where I'm stitching to hold that fabric a little elevated, and then I use my thumb to kind of guide where my needle needs to go. So I'm doing it like this. So those are my 2 important stitching gadgets there, not my Q-snap or my hoop, but my pointer finger and my thumb. So my pointer finger is right back here, right behind the stitch. And so with a little practice, you get a little and more fast this way. And it seems like my stitching does go a lot quicker when I stitch this way. So up, bottom left, down, bottom right, poke your needle up, bottom right, and pull through. Yep. Uh-oh, got a little thread knot there. So up, bottom left, dive down into top right, stick your needle up through bottom right. Bottom left, dive to the top right, up through the bottom right and pull. And then we're just going to repeat this going the opposite way. So coming back, you're going to be coming up from the bottom right down into the top left and poke your needle back up through the bottom left. Up bottom right, down into top left, poke your needle up through the bottom left. Coming up from the bottom right, down into the top left, back up with your needle through the bottom left and pull. And we're just going to keep doing that, just like that. And there you go. So that's the sewing method. Easy peasy. Anyone can do it. I love to use the sewing method on my samplers because many of the samplers that I love are large, and I usually do those on a higher count linen, and I usually stitch either 36 or 40 one strand of thread over 2 linen threads, and I use the sewing method most of the time. I don't use it all the time. I do get that question too. It depends on what I'm working on. The ornament I finished up last week, I was stitching on 32 count, and I stitched 2 over 2. This one I just decided to change up to the way I like it most. The patterns, those are suggestions. If you like 40 count, you use 40 count. If you like 32, you use 32, but use what you like. There are no rules. You adapt everything that you learn to do what benefits you and how you stitch. It's all about the journey. So everyone have a great rest of the week. Thanks for dropping by and visiting with me today. And for those that asked for this video, I hope you enjoy it and I hope I was clear. If you have any questions, drop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.